I will be speaking on step 12. So I wore my step 12 t-shirt today. I'm going to see if you can see it. Not very well. But it says, keep calm and carry the message. So anyway, I'm going to start off with a reading from Reaching for Personal Freedom, our workbook, and on step 12, and it's pages, a little bit from page 61 and 63. First of all, step 12 states, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Finding the meaning of step 12. I felt hopeless and dead inside when I came to Al-Anon. So that I could better understand the steps, I found it helpful to look up the meaning of the words in the dictionary. The words in step 12 are very special to me. The first two words tell me that applying the steps to my life offers me hope for a spiritual awakening and awareness of God. Result implies the consequence of my actions. Therefore, I understand that I will have this awareness because I have used the steps in my life. Step 12 then suggests that I try to carry the message. Although everyone isn't ready to hear the message of recovery, I can still carry it in various ways, speaking, writing, or welcoming newcomers with a smile and a hug. The word practice means to do something repeatedly, to develop a skill. If I practice the steps in my life, I become more proficient in using them. Finally, principles are the code for living that I practice in every area of my life. For me, step 12 is a culmination of all the steps. And then on page 63, the part where it talks about carrying the message. Although I have worked all of the steps to the best of my ability, it is just the beginning. I tried carrying the message to my family and friends during the first few months in Al-Anon. I felt so much hope that I wanted to share it with everyone I loved, but it wasn't met with any enthusiasm. I learned it was better to become the message through my words and actions. I could be an example of what Al-Anon can do when someone who is helpless and hopeless becomes a confident, loving person. When I was fairly new in Al-Anon, I yelled at a cashier for taking such a long time to complete a transaction. She was a newcomer the following week at my meeting. I was devastated. I'm grateful for that spiritual awakening. I start each day by asking for my higher power's will and for help to let go of my own self-will. This prayer has given me amazing peace. I try to embody the gentle message of Al-Anon in all my affairs. And so one of the questions in this workbook is, what does the term spiritual awakening mean to me? And for me, the spiritual awakening is like the fog lifting and the growing and the nurturing and then the awareness, like it talked about, versus like a spiritual experience. I think that is also talked about. And I've had that. I've had kind of the burning bush experiences, and but most often it's the awakening, where it is that slow lift of the fog. And so that is not so obvious as the burning bush spiritual experiences. But when the awakenings happen, a new perspective and a changed attitude comes to me, but over time. And for instance, when I first got into Al-Anon, when I came back into Al-Anon the second time, it was a breakup that I really hit bottom, and I was in a lot of despair. I thought it was the worst thing that could happen that this guy broke up with me. I thought it was the end of the world. And it's because I made men my higher power. And that higher power rejects you, there's no hope left. And so that was my bottom. And so I went back into Al-Anon with the gift of desperation, acronym GOD, gift of desperation, one of the many for God. And it took years to look back on it and say, wow, what I thought was the worst thing in the world was actually the best thing, because it got me into the program. It turned my life around because of working the program. And, I was able to realize with awareness that God was doing for me what I could not do for myself. Because if He didn't break it off with me, I would not have broken it off with Him. I would have stayed in that relationship for maybe decades, hoping to recapture the honeymoon period of the first 6 months. And, but it took years to realize that. It took years to realize I'm so glad that God did not give me what I want. And I can look back and see many examples of that. And that's like that spiritual awakening of where God was there. And I thought I had a judgment that it was this way. And again, it takes time to be able to look back. Another example I have about a spiritual experience that was pretty painful, but there was awakening where I got awareness afterwards. I was dealing with a very overbearing woman, and she was very dominating and seemed to try to cross my boundaries a lot. And I hate confrontation. I'd rather jump off a cliff than to set a boundary. But she taught me by this experience how to speak up for myself, how to set that boundary with her. So, and I just hated this woman. I hated that this was happening to me. Why me? And it wasn't until, again, time passed and the spiritual awakening and being able to look back at it, that she was probably the best teacher to help me work my program and set that boundary. And, then I can look back and see all these people that were teachers when I thought they were jerks and, just horrible people. And it's kind of funny that, God sends sometimes the most annoying people to help me work my program, to help me grow. And so, and then over time I can say, thank you. And it's funny because sometimes when my sponsees call and they're dealing with a difficult person, and I'll say, someday you'll be able to say thank you for teaching me how to work my program. They're like, no, you're fired. I want to just throw up right now or something. But, again, in time. So anyway, and the thing is that these people come into my life. Maybe it's to learn how to stand up for myself. Maybe it's to learn to set a boundary or confront somebody, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's to teach me about, okay, let them go and do self-care. Maybe it's not about confrontation. Maybe it's about self-care. I really thought that because I have 2 years of program, I should be able to be in the presence of my family 24/7. And what I learned was, just because I have program doesn't mean I have to put myself in toxic situations. Sometimes it's program that teaches me, no, you don't have to be in those situations. And, just because I have a high tolerance of pain, because I grew up as an adult child, and I have that high tolerance, doesn't mean I should endure it. So again, another spiritual awakening. Another big thing was my mom and she was probably the most difficult person in my life. We always, always were fighting, bumping heads, and really triggering each other. And I remember we would get into an argument. I'd end up crying. I called my sponsor, and my sponsor said, "Why did you dance with her?" And I'm like, "But she did blah blah blah, and she said blah blah blah." And my sponsor says, "But she assumed the position, and you joined in and did your dance. If you don't join in when she holds her arms out wanting to dance with you, then you're not doing the dance." And I thought, it's so interesting, because when she said that, I totally was unaware of my part. Unaware till she said that. So again, another spiritual awakening. And again, God's hand is guiding in all of this. That's why it's the fog is lifting and I'm getting awareness. Next, I'll talk about practicing principles in all my affairs. And what I love about this program is that it's not just about practicing the principles in crises. I want to hear, how do what tools do you use when there's someone in the grocery store line that's being too slow? I want to hear, what are you using what do you do when someone cuts you off? How do you apply the program? Because these little things can be very crazy making too. There's crisis, but they're the little daily things. I need help with applying these principles in all my affairs, big or small. So I'd love to hear people's stories and how they apply the tools. And I remember when I was a newcomer, someone said in a meeting, if I am not practicing the principles of this program, then I am practicing the principles of my family of origin. And I went, oh my God. All right, I'll never leave. I will never leave this program. You got me for life. Because I don't want to practice the principles of my family of origin. The principles of my distorted thinking, the principles of my isms. I don't want to do that. And so I have to keep that in mind and keep that motivation to keep working my program. Next, I'll talk about carry the message. In this reading, I did exactly what this person did. When I discovered the program and just was on that honeymoon period with the program, and I found the way out, I'm going to bring you all with me. I gave literature to all my family members for Christmas. Everyone got a Hope for Today or Courage to Change or da-da-da. Well, guess what? The next time I went home, there were 2 copies of Courage to Change at my brother's house. I go, why do you have 2 copies? He's like, well, Mom regifted it to me, hers to me. So they're regifting the gifts because they don't want them. They're just giving it to other family members. And I realized, that's when I thought, they don't care. They're not ready. They don't want to hear this. I'm pushing it on them. And then there was one time we were eating dinner, and after dinner, my dad got up to do the dishes. And everyone was in shock. They just stopped. And my mom was like, she's never seen my dad do the dishes in like 40 plus years. And immediately she questioned me, what's in that book? What did he read that he's doing the dishes now? What's in that book you gave him? And I said, nothing that talks about doing the dishes. And she said, there's something. What is it? I can't believe he's doing. I mean, it was shocking. It just was like, what is this witchcraft in your book that's making your dad do the dishes? And it's just so interesting how, again, just like one of my character defects is jumping to conclusions, and I see that. I'm aware of that now. I can see it in my family members too, and this is how I'm affected, how they're affected by the family disease of alcoholism. Okay. And so today I don't give books as gifts. I try to hopefully exemplify the program through attraction. And sometimes people may be attracted and maybe they won't. But I want to walk the talk. I'm very good at just talking the program. That's what I mean. I kind of approached Al-Anon the first time as I did college and high school. Like, okay, I'll learn all the stuff. I'll regurgitate it to you and get the A on the test. And then I don't need to retain this anymore. That doesn't work here. That does not work in the program. This is about daily work, mental work. It's about willingness. It's about applying the tools, and it's constant every day. Willingness, applying the tools, willingness, applying the tools. And it's about practice. And so I have to be aware, am I just talking the talk or am I walking the walk? I've heard many things in regards to carry the message. There's that saying, drop the rock, carry the message, not the rock of resentment, the rock of guilt, the rock of shame. And there's a speaker that talks about his program friends and his sponsor telling him to drop the rock. It's pulling you down, it's drowning you. And he says, but it's my rock. And that's the thing, is it's my resentment, it's my pain, it's my this, that's why I'm not going to drop it. Well, I don't have to live this way anymore. I can let go of it with the help of a higher power, with the help of program people, with the help of meetings, all the gifts that the program has. I've also heard carry the message, not the mess. And I also heard about the first rule in sponsoring is carry the message, not the person. I can guide someone through the steps. I don't need to pay their bills or pay their rent or lend them my car because they don't have transportation or whatever. And I have to keep those boundaries true for me too. This I've learned in this program that this is not a self-help program, it's a God-help program, and that I had a God-sized hole in me, and I tried to fill it with men or TV or, fantasy or drama, excitement, and it's not about that. It's about getting a higher power of my understanding and developing a relationship with my higher power, and through the program, through the people. I'll just say that I'll just start closing with before program, my life was very unmanageable, very chaotic, very insane, and I came to believe that Hannah could restore Hannah to sanity. I turned my will and my life over to Hannah every day. I thought Hannah could remove Hannah's character defects. It was very painful, very dark, very chaotic. And so today, I want God to be with me. I want to come to believe that God can restore me to sanity. I turn my will and my life over to God. I ask God to remove my character defects. I ask for the knowledge of His will and the power to carry that out. So, and no, it took a long time to really believe that my higher power wants me to be happy, joyous, and free. And can I get out of my own way so that I can, so that God can help me in that way? And there is a saying in Survival to Recovery on page 269, and I've been trying to work with this on a daily basis because I am like a recovering resistor. I resist. Even before program, a psychic told me, which I also made a higher power at one time. They're going to give me all the answers to my life. But a psychic told me it's not how small you're living, it's how big you're resisting. I resisted everything. I was fearful of everything. So in Survival to Recovery, there is a phrase here that I want to try to keep in mind every day, is to flow day by day with God's ease, balance, and grace. I try to flow day by day with God's ease, balance, and grace, not by Hannah's dis-ease, unbalance, and chaos. So with that, I'll pass. Keep coming back. There's a lot of hope in this program. And thank you again